They mocked her until the air itself felt poisoned. The room echoed with laughter that wasn't just cruel, it was calculated. In the middle of the barracks, under the harsh white lights, stood Sergeant Lily Morgan, stripped of her dignity, her uniform, and her silence. The same people who once called her sister in arms were now smirking, whispering, pointing. But none of them noticed what would soon silence the entire base, the ink that ran like fire down her spine. It started 3 weeks earlier when Lily arrived at Camp Raven, a joint operations base hosting Marines, Rangers, and SEALs for advanced combat coordination training. She had transferred from a remote intelligence unit, known more for computers than combat. The moment she walked into the briefing room, the stares told her she didn't belong. Her file said, "Sergeant," but her soft tone and calm demeanor made the men think otherwise. "Intel girl, huh," one of the Rangers muttered as she unpacked her gear. "You're gonna teach us how to type faster." Lily didn't respond. She'd learned long ago that silence spoke louder than pride. But inside, she felt the familiar sting. Being underestimated wasn't new. She'd fought for every rank, every respect, every right to stand where she did. Still, every time she entered a new command, it felt like starting from zero again. Training began, and the atmosphere only grew colder. Her orders were ignored, her input dismissed. During a tactical planning exercise, she suggested a maneuver that would have reduced casualty risk by 40%. A Marine captain laughed out loud. "Stick to your data sheets, Sergeant. Leave the battlefield to real soldiers." That night, she sat alone in the mess hall, staring at her tray of untouched food. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from the familiar frustration of being surrounded by people who refused to see her as one of them. What they didn't know was that before joining intelligence, she had completed advanced combat training under one of the toughest SEAL instructors in the Pacific. But she never bragged, never corrected. She believed actions proved worth better than words. Then came the incident. During an inspection drill, her section was accused of a uniform violation, wrong insignia placement. Though minor, the officer in charge decided to make an example. They called her to the front of the platoon, demanding she remove her outer gear. What started as a reprimand turned into humiliation. "Go ahead, Sergeant," one of them sneered, "let's see how a data clerk wears her colors." Her face burned as she removed her jacket. The laughter swelled. Someone whistled. It wasn't just cruel, it was degrading. She kept her head down, fighting back tears. Her voice wanted to shout, but her heart told her to endure. Then the room fell silent. Because when she turned, the SEAL commander standing at the back caught sight of something the others hadn't noticed, a tattoo running straight down her spine. It wasn't decorative. It wasn't delicate. It was a black ink insignia that only one group in the U.S. military bore, the mark of those who'd survived the SEAL reconnaissance survival trials. The commander stepped forward slowly, his eyes narrowing. "Sergeant Morgan," he said quietly, "where did you earn that ink?" Lily froze. The laughter stopped completely. "Answer the question," he pressed, his voice firm but respectful. "Coronado, sir," she replied softly. "Class 342. Instructor Mason." The commander inhaled sharply. He knew that name. Instructor Mason trained only elite recon cadets, many of whom never made it through the first week. He turned to the others, his tone now like steel. "Do you have any idea what that tattoo means?" No one answered. "That ink is awarded to those who completed the SEAL recon course and survived 3 days in enemy terrain without support. You mock this woman, and yet she's done what most of you couldn't dream of doing." The silence that followed was heavier than any shout. The same men who laughed now stood frozen, guilt etched on their faces. Lily stood still, her chest rising and falling with quiet strength. Then, something unexpected happened. The commander saluted her. Not a casual nod, a full, formal, deliberate salute. And the entire room followed. One by one, the same soldiers who had mocked her raised their hands. Not out of pity, but out of respect earned the hard way, through endurance, silence, and scars no one saw. Later that evening, the commander approached her privately. "You didn't tell them who you were," he said. "I didn't need to," she replied softly. "Respect means nothing if you have to demand it." He nodded, a faint smile forming. "You've got more backbone than half the men here. Maybe that's what your tattoos should really stand for." From that day forward, everything changed. During training, soldiers sought her advice. They listened when she spoke. When she walked across the base, they moved aside, not out of fear, but out of genuine honor. But Lily never boasted, never brought up that day again. She didn't need to. Her story spread quietly, carried in whispers that reminded everyone of what true strength looked like. It wasn't about the tattoo. It wasn't even about the seal recognition. It was about the woman who stood silent while others mocked her, and walked away with every ounce of her dignity intact. Months later, when the SEAL commander was reassigned, he left a message in her file. Greater than, Sergeant Lily Morgan, spine of steel, heart of fire, never underestimate the quiet ones. And that became her legacy. Because sometimes, the strongest thing you can do isn't to fight back. It's to stand tall when the world tries to strip you bare, and let your scars speak for themselves.